Halloween is a holiday that is loved by all. From the young to the not so young, there's just something so fun about a day that revolves around creative costumes, scary movies, and yummy candy. Where the first Star Wars Battlefront from DICE and EA was merely content to offer a very pretty multiplayer experience, Star Wars Battlefront II features a single-player story that explores more of that galaxy far, far away, and is filled with references to just about every extension of the new Star Wars canon. Of all the elements that make Halloween a memorable event from an early age, it's the candy that returns year after year. Eat your favorite Halloween candy and you will reminisce about your fondest Halloweens of yesteryear. Each year, 600 million pounds of Halloween candy is purchased by Americans. Good for you then that we've explored every mynock hole and wampa cave, managing to unearth all the glorious hidden Easter eggs within Star Wars Battlefront II. Be wary, however, there are spoilers ahead. Rebel secrets reveal the very start of the game finds Inferno Squad Commander Iden Versio imprisoned on a Rebel Alliance ship, though she allowed herself to be captured as part of a plan to destroy vital transmissions the rebels stole. As she explores the ship, several background conversations allude to events that transpired elsewhere in Star Wars canon. First, Iden's little droid overhears a conversation in the halls about Corona Squadron, who uncovered the Imperial plans for a second Death Star. Later, as Iden sneaks past some rebel meetings, Admiral Akbar can be seen on Hollywood describing Operation Yellow Moon. What's Operation Yellow Moon? It was the primary focus of Moving Target, a novel released ahead of The Force Awakens in which Princess Leia attempted to distract the Imperials from learning about the massing rebel army ahead of the attack on the second Death Star. While some of the candy you shouldn't eat, there is literally tons of amazing candy being handed out to trick-or-treaters on this spooky night. After her successful mission, Leia even steals the Imperial shuttle Tidarium, which you may recall is the ship Luke, Han, and Leia used to sneak onto Endor in Return of the Jedi. The Emperor's Revenge once reunited with the Imperial fleet after the destruction of the second Death Star, Iden Versio meets with one of Emperor Palpatine's Sentinel messenger droids. Whether you're doing the handing out or partaking in the trick or treating yourself, there's some sugary sweetness involved. Once Halloween is over and the candy bags are being inspected, it quickly becomes obvious that not all candy is created equal. Some of it is divine, while others belong in the nearest trash can. In this list, the most popular Halloween candy has been reviewed and successfully ordered from trash-worthy to the very best. 17. First introduced in Marvel's Star Wars, Shattered Empire comics, the Sentinel messengers activated as part of Palpatine's contingency plan in the event of his death. The first element these creepy red droids activated was Operation Cinder, a massive attack via weather satellites that would destroy the atmospheres on planets sympathetic to the rebel cause. Not only does the Sentinel messenger relay the details of the post-mortem mission with a perfectly eerie imitation of Palpatine, it also uses the exact same dialogue from its first appearance in Shattered Empire. Candy corn. The fact that candy corn hits the mainstream every year when Halloween rolls around is so very confusing. It seems like nobody really likes this candy. The placement of the phrases may not be exact, but the speech is the same, and shows just how well organized the droids were in delivering the deceased Emperor's message. A rogue Star Destroyer. In order to kick Operation Cinder off correctly, the Imperial's forces must acquire the weather satellites from the shipyards above Fondor, one of the Empire's key developmental resources. The few who claim to like it are likely just clinging onto fond Halloween memories from their childhood. Everything about candy corn is terrible. Inferno Squad is expected to provide cover when a contingent of rebel ships arrives at Fondor to keep pushing the offensive on the last remaining Imperial strongholds. The key Imperial Star Destroyer the Inferno Squad must protect is the Dauntless, which previously appeared in a brief cameo above Jeddah in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The Dauntless is responsible for delivering the experimental satellites to locations like Naboo in order for the Emperor to extract his revenge from beyond the grave. It has a gross waxy texture that causes you to gag unless you're prepared. Without Iden Versio's help, that wouldn't have been possible. Luke Skywalker's mysterious compass. Following the events above Fondor, Inferno Squad splits up some of its members to go on different missions. If you power through the putrid texture, the flavor does you no favors. There's nothing fancy about it. It basically resembles a combination of candle wax and corn syrup. To make matters worse, they're loose in trick-or-treat bags. If candy corn is so disgusting, how come more than 9 billion kernels of this candy are produced every year? The only explanation is that it's just a collective bad habit at this point. We get to step into the shoes of Luke Skywalker to see one of those missions from a different perspective on Pilio. Inferno Squad's Del Meeko was tasked with destroying one of the Emperor's observatories, with the Pilio location hosting a storage unit full of Jedi artifacts. After helping Del turn off the automated defenses so he could set charges to destroy the cache, Luke Skywalker uncovers a mysterious compass. Ordinarily that wouldn't elicit much of a reaction, but that same compass has appeared in the novel The Legends of Luke Skywalker, albeit with a different origin, and in action figures for Luke Skywalker based in The Last Jedi. Perhaps the orange, yellow, and white on the candy corn convinces people that this is the quintessential candy of autumn and, specifically, Halloween. However, this Halloween, do humanity a favor and refuse any and all pieces of what is essentially sweetened tricolored earwax. The compass makes an appearance in the movie itself, though its actual significance is still unclear. The prison planet, though we don't get to see Sunspot Prison in Star Wars Battlefront II, that doesn't stop Iden and Del from pondering if that's where they'll wind up if they defect to the rebellion. If candy corn is the only treat available, demand a trick instead. 16. Originally introduced in Marvel's Star Wars ongoing comic book series, Sunspot Prison is a distant, hidden security installation where the rebels lock up high-priority prisoners like Moffs, spies, and in the comics Darth Vader's one-time confidant, Dr. Aphra. Sunspot Prison's exact location isn't known, but the jail gets its name from being positioned directly in the orbit of a sun, which bathes the prison in a constant stream of light. It makes Sunspot Prison rather hard to locate given the radiation from the heavenly body, and serves as a defense mechanism too, since it makes approaching the station from the rear nearly impossible. Naboo outcasts with the former Inferno Squad members on their side, the Rebel Alliance learns about Operation Cinder and does its best to put an end to the Emperor's contingency plan. Double Bubble is such a bad Halloween candy that it's legitimately neck and neck with candy corn for this ranking's bottom spot. First of all, the flavor of this bubble gum is so slight that it's completely forgettable. You can taste it for a few chews but then it's gone. Compare it to other gums on the market and its boring flavor is laughable. Secondly, it's a relatively dangerous candy. Ask anyone who has struggled to get bubble gum out of carpeting or, worse yet, human hair, and ask them how much trouble the gum can cause. Plus, some experts believe that Double Bubble contains a carcinogen. Do you really want to take a risk on such a subpar candy? Thirdly, Double Bubble is simply a colossal waste of time. After a couple of chews, you basically have a piece of pale rubber in your mouth. Spit out this bubble gum and just say no from now on. 15. Butterfinger is the type of treat that you love when you're little but then you like less and less as you age. High above the skies of Naboo, several of the deadly weather satellites loom, ready to wreak havoc on the planet below. By the time you're an adult, it's possible that you go out of your way to avoid eating this candy bar. By the time you have grandchildren, it's the one candy that is safe in their candy bags. If you haven't eaten a Butterfinger in a while, do yourself a favor and keep it that way. Fortunately, Iden and Del arrive just in time to help Princess Leia and Shara Bey, Poe Dameron's mother, take the satellites out before they settle down to help the ground forces fend off the Empire. The moment echoes what we see in the Shattered Empire comics, but getting to live through the chaotic battle is way better than just reading about it. Additionally, during the firefight above Naboo, players can hear Nine Nunbi and Lando Calrissian over the comms delivering more dialogue straight from the comics. Unfortunately, the Melcrawler 2 is nowhere to be seen on screen. Time out on Takodana after players get the chance to visit with Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa earlier in Battlefront II's story, it only makes sense that Han Solo would eventually show up, too. Even if you think you would enjoy it, you should know that Butterfinger changed their recipe in 2019, with nasty being one of the adjectives people now use to describe the new Butterfinger. It's here we return to the familiar ground of Takodana and Moshe Kanata's castle for a covert mission where Han must get a defecting Imperial agent out in order to obtain some information about liberating Kashyyyk, the Wookiee homeworld. Though there aren't many visual Easter eggs in this mission, there are some excellent sound bites to pick up if you take your time exploring all of Maz's home. While some people still find the new version to be comparable to the original wasn't good enough to even take that risk. Characters throughout talk about purple Wookiees with green eyes, an allusion to Star Wars Rebels Zeb Aurelius. Some make references to Skystrike Academy, where former Imperial cadet Wedge Antilles trained. A droid bartender offers port in a storm, an incredibly strong drink referenced in the novel Bloodline, and you can visit the room where Rey found Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, even though you can't actually go inside. Live from Lothal late in the game, Iden and Del get a tip that their former Inferno Squad cohort Gideon Hask is up to no good on Bespin, so they take the first opportunity they can to investigate. While approaching the docking platform, Iden and Del talk about their potential plans when the Galactic Civil War is over, if they manage to survive. Considering that just about all other candy bars are superior, it shouldn't be long before you're met with a better alternative, especially around Halloween. 14. Del hints that he'd like to visit the planets Lothal and Makapo, figuring they'd be good places to start over. Lothal is a primary location in the ongoing saga of Star Wars Rebels, and also happens to be home to a Jedi temple. Makapo is also a reference to Star Wars Rebels, and was where a massive space battle played out in the episode Iron Squadron. Stormtrooper gossip. Continuing the search for Hask on Bespin, Iden and Del go undercover as stormtroopers to get closer to their target. Salt water taffy. Despite the name, salt water taffy has a lot of sugar in it and hardly any salt. That should be a clear hint that reality isn't always what it seems when it comes to this popular Halloween candy. While wandering the halls of one of the Imperial control centers, Iden can listen in to a conversation between two other unidentified stormtroopers. Though they appear to be talking about some random leader and encounter off-world, just about every reference made in this game serves a purpose. The stormtroopers mention Governor Adelhard and the Uprising he's fighting, which is a callback to EA's mobile game, Star Wars, Uprising. That title focused on a group of rebel soldiers putting a stop to Adelhard's Iron Blockade, an Imperial plan to prevent the galaxy from learning about Emperor Palpatine's death. Aftermath on Jakku. The Lost Stars and Aftermath, Empire's End novels both detail the Battle of Jakku at length, and we got to play a bit of the battle in the previous Star Wars Battlefront via DLC. That was a more generic experience though, and Battlefront II puts a much more personalized touch on the events that transpired on that desert planet. Two quests in particular on the planet call back to events described in Empire's End, and we get to see them from Iden's perspective. In one mission, players had to aid Captain Lindsay, an Alliance pilot whose squadron was shot down approaching Carbon Ridge. While salt water taffy can sometimes look like it will be delicious when it's in the wrapper, eating one is always a perilous proposition. When you unwrap the candy and pop it into your mouth, you never know quite what to expect when it comes to the texture. Sometimes salt water taffy is as hard as a rock. Sometimes it's hard on the outside and soft in the middle. Sometimes it's soft on the outside and crunchy in the middle. In Empire's End, Carbon Ridge is where Imperial agent Gallus Rax's secret facility on Jakku is located. Sometimes it's grossly soft all the way through. By the time you swallow the piece of salt water taffy, you'll realize that the reward wasn't worth the gamble. Even at its best, this candy is mediocre. Considering that it's inedible at its worst, just don't bother. 13. Hershey's Kisses. When it comes to overrated Halloween candy, Hershey's Kisses are at the front of that line. When you're presented with a kiss, you'll probably be receptive. Additionally, you'll be called to aid a group of rebel troops trying to evacuate but who cornered by an attacking group of ATs. Iden calls in air support from Starhawk Command, a group of ships introduced in Empire's End that were key players in taking down numerous Imperial ships, including the Ravager. But by the end of the experience, you'll wonder why you went through with it. Unwrapping Hershey's Kisses isn't always the simplest of tasks, especially when you're multitasking. The Ravager is, of course, the massive Star Destroyer Rey and Finn fly through when escaping Jakku in The Force Awakens. Snappy dialogue. Elsewhere on Jakku, players can hear a lot of comms chatter between the various rebel pilots trying to finally bury the Empire. The longer players spend time in their X-Wings before heading to new objectives, the more references to existing characters and events they're likely to hear. Not only are there direct calls to Phantom Squadron and its members Wedge Antilles and Snap Wexley, but you'll also hear a lengthy bit about a Star Destroyer on a crash course with the planet's surface. Ending up with a bit of chocolate under one of your nails is a common misstep. An unnamed voice details that a rebel contingent behind enemy lines is responsible for this crashing ship, and even mentions Thane Kyrell by name. Anyone who read Lost Stars should be immediately familiar with Kyrell and this star destroyer, the Inflictor. Aside from appearing in Lost Stars, the Inflictor is also present in The Force Awakens when Rey speeds past it on her way back to Nema Outpost. Kylo Ren's reveals after defeating the Empire on Jakku, it seemed as if Iden's and Del's story was over, but Battlefront II jumps ahead some 30 years to the time just before The Force Awakens begins. Once you have the wrapper open and you've introduced the kiss to your lips, your taste buds will be underwhelmed. Gideon Hask has tricked Del into returning to Pilio, where Kylo Ren is brought to interrogate the traitor. Hershey's Kisses aren't terrible, mind you, but this waxy version of chocolate isn't anything special, either. If you're going to be giving out Hershey's Kisses for Halloween this year, don't go the yawn-inducing milk chocolate route. Instead, give out one of the best flavors of Kisses like mint or milk chocolate with almonds. The First Order believes Del might know where Lor San Tekka and the map to Luke Skywalker are located, but he won't give up that information willingly. Alternatively, hand out Hershey's miniatures. While they are similar in size to a kiss, they pack a much more powerful punch of flavor. 12. Swedish Fish Meh. Kylo Ren reaches into Del's mind in the same way we saw him dive into Poe Dameron's and Rey's in The Force Awakens, only this time we get to see how his powers work firsthand. Playing as Kylo Ren, we travel through Del's memories going back to his time on Scarif before the events of Rogue One, and his adventures with Inferno Squad and the Rebellion. We also learn Iden and Del had a daughter, who Hask is set to hunt down next on his quest for revenge in Battlefront II's DLC. That's the one word that perfectly describes Swedish fish. The texture isn't great, but it also isn't horrible. The flavor isn't very notable, but it's just barely good enough for you to think about reaching for the next fish. Compared to candy corn, Swedish fish taste amazing, but that's a low bar to use as a comparison. If you've never tasted Swedish fish, the first time they go swimming around your tongue you won't be able to put your finger on exactly what it is you're tasting. Is it dark cherry? Is it wild strawberry? Is it some type of fruit juice punch? Considering that nobody really knows the answer, you won't be alone in your state of confusion. The most likely answer is that Swedish fish taste like lingonberry, a type of berry that is popular in Sweden, but that has never been confirmed. The answer that surprisingly makes the most sense is that Swedish fish just taste like the color red. 11. Tootsie Pop. Tootsie Pops are another mediocre Halloween candy. Once you've finished eating one of these lollipops, you will realize it may not be worth all the effort. Invented all the way back in 1931, Tootsie Pops really became famous after their iconic commercial was released in 1970. In the commercial, a kid goes around to different animals to see if any animal knows how many licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll in the middle of the lollipop. None of the animals know the answer or have the patience to find out. Fast forward 50 years and the sentiment remains the same. While a Tootsie Pop has a decent taste and the Tootsie Roll in the middle also tastes okay, nothing about this treat makes it worth wasting time on. Just like Mr. Owl, we all eventually just bite into the lollipop just to get it over with and get on to better tasting candy. 10. Milky Way. Whether you'll be satisfied by a Milky Way candy bar on Halloween depends on one thing, the size of the bar. If it's a mini Milky Way, you're doomed to be left unsatisfied. When a Milky Way is miniaturized, the chocolate, nougat, and caramel will essentially evaporate in your mouth after a bite or two. Before your taste buds can even attempt to enjoy it, the candy bar will already have disappeared. Conversely, if you get a Milky Way that is the original size, that thing will have enough heft to it that you can fully enjoy it as you savor each bite. Sadly, on Halloween, you're more likely to get the mini version than the original.
If you are obsessed with dark chocolate candy bars, a Milky Way Midnight Dark is something you will love. It has a really bold dark chocolate flavor that is perfectly offset by a sweet splash of caramel. 9. Jolly Rancher. Jolly Ranchers could be higher on this ranking, but there is such disparity between their tasty flavors and their crummy flavors that they are instead stuck in the middle of the pack. If you get lucky and you get a green apple or a watermelon Jolly Rancher, you will be thrilled. You can put it in your mouth, sit back, and enjoy the unrelenting flavor. However, on the other side of the coin, if you get a grape Jolly Rancher, you will either spit it out or chew it to make it leave your mouth quicker. As you chew it, you'll be annoyed by how much it sticks to your teeth. Even though they have a history that dates back to 1949, the flavor of Jolly Ranchers is still a work in progress. You see new flavors emerge every now and then, but they still haven't gotten to the point where they've purged the bad flavors. In addition to grape, blue raspberry is another flavor that is a major disappointment. 8. Starburst. With an origin story that began in 1959, Starbursts have been a popular Halloween candy for decades now. After all, the Fruity Chews made $259.2 million in sales in 2018 alone. While no one really celebrates getting Starbursts in their Halloween bag, no one is overly disappointed, either. This is a run-of-the-mill candy that does its job, nothing more, nothing less. Unlike Jolly Ranchers, all the Starburst flavors are on the same level. No matter which color you pick, you won't be let down. The pink and the red might do better in online polls than the yellow and the orange, but it's a close call. In terms of texture, Starbursts can be a bit hit or miss. If the pieces of candy are old, they tend to get hard on the outside. That said, the texture isn't as erratic as something like saltwater taffy. Even when a Starburst is hard to chew at first, it will usually soften within a few seconds. 7. Kit Kat. Kit Kats are the first candy on this list that grades out as significantly above average. If you get a Kit Kat bar on Halloween, you can't help but smile. The best attribute of this candy is its satisfying crunch. Even if you get the miniature snack-size version of a Kit Kat, that crunch will still be as prevalent and as enjoyable as ever. Sure, the full-size version is better, but Kit Kats are the rare candy in which size truly doesn't matter. Additionally, Kit Kats come in an exciting variety of flavors like pumpkin and even wasabi. In fact, there are approximately 400 different flavors on the market in Japan. While some of those flavors are better than others, they're all fascinating enough to try at least once. Even if you aren't visiting Japan anytime soon, you can find many exotic Kit Kat flavors online if you look hard enough, and you can order them from the comfort of your living room couch. 6. Hot tamales. With so many sweet candies invading everyone's Halloween bags, adding some spiciness to the mix is always a welcome reprieve. Thanks to an abundance of cinnamon flavor, hot tamales are a candy that is sure to set your taste buds on fire, in the most gentle way possible, of course. Not only are hot tamales popular enough to make this ranking, but they're also actually the most popular Halloween candy in Arizona. And if there's one thing we know about Arizonans, it's that they know their heat. When the thought of another sweet candy on Halloween is enough to make you gag, reach for a box of hot tamales. The cinnamon flavoring isn't too overpowering, but it's powerful enough to act as the perfect change of pace. Considering that each hot tamale has only 7 calories, you can eat a handful without an ounce of regret. When you're finished, you can switch back to sweet Halloween candy. 5. M&Ms. The classic goodness you feel when you're eating M&Ms is palpable. There's just something so comforting and so right about eating these button-shaped candies. Even on Halloween, when you're met with a wide array of candy options, M&Ms are a trustworthy choice to bring you happiness. Plus, when you're busy juggling a whole lot of different candies on Halloween, it's helpful that M&Ms don't melt in your hand. If your Halloween candy gets jumbled up and you can't tell which candies are which, M&Ms will stand out due to the M stamped on each piece of candy. That was originally done to thwart counterfeits, but it becomes especially useful on Halloween. For those of you who try to hoard the green M&Ms due to their aphrodisiacal properties, it must be reported that the rumor is, sadly, not true. What is true is that all colors and all types of M&Ms, from milk chocolate to peanut to pretzel, taste very good. 4. Sour Patch Kids. Like hot tamales, Sour Patch Kids offer some needed flavor diversity on Halloween. First introduced in 1985, instead of being spicy like hot tamales, Sour Patch Kids hit your taste buds head-on with a blast of sourness that will make you pucker with delight. After the sourness dissipates, you're then confronted with a spurt of sweetness. All in all, it's an enjoyable roller coaster ride for your senses. Not only do Sour Patch Kids have an entertaining taste, but the texture of this candy is also immaculate. Of all the soft, chewy candies on the market, these sour and sweet goodies feel the best when they're inhabiting your mouth. They're always pillowy soft and their chewiness allows you to thoroughly enjoy the candy without it becoming a chore. If you can't get enough of the sourness, considering upgrading the sour factor with Sour Patch Kids Extreme. These bad boys will cause an extra amount of puckering, but they still have the same soothing sweet aftertaste. 3. Snickers. Snickers are a Halloween mainstay that never gets old. If you loved these candy bars when you were growing up, you'll still love them today. Unlike the aforementioned Butterfinger disaster, it doesn't taste as if Snickers has ever messed with their recipe. Like Kit Kats, Snickers still taste good even if you only have a fun-size version or the even smaller mini version at your disposal. But the great thing about a full-size Snickers bar is that it's so hearty that it can legitimately take the place of a meal. The caramel, peanuts, nougat, and milk chocolate combine to be a filling foursome that will leave you completely satiated. Snickers are so popular with trick-or-treaters that production for Halloween begins in the spring. In fact, around 400 million Snickers bars are sold per year. If you want to be a Halloween hero, hand out full-size Snickers to every man, woman, or child who comes to your door. Your neighborhood will love you forever. 2. Skittles. When it comes to sweet, chewy candies on Halloween, Skittles are by far the best. It's safe to say they have mastered their craft. Once you bite into a Skittle, you're met with a flavor explosion in your mouth. As you continue to chew, the flavor continues to pop. All the flavors, strawberry, grape, orange, lemon, and green apple, are fantastic in their own individual way. For that reason, it's advisable to always eat Skittles one at a time. Otherwise, you won't be able to bask in the true majesty of this sweet treat. There was once an unfortunate rumor that all Skittles actually have the same flavor. That rumor was, of course, completely debunked. While M&Ms, and even Fruit Loops, believe it or not, all have the same flavor regardless of color, that's not the case with Skittles. Close your eyes, pick a random Skittle, put it in your mouth, and you will instantly know the flavor and the corresponding color. 1. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Whenever the topic of the best candy is discussed, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are almost always crowned the winner. According to a 2019 poll, 36% of Americans have deemed Reese's Peanut Butter Cups the ultimate Halloween candy, and for good reason. The chocolatey taste and the peanut buttery taste join forces to create a scrumptious flavor that is unrivaled in the candy universe. When trick-or-treaters are going door to door, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the treasures they are after. Offer up these goodies on Halloween and the happy recipients will act as if they are being handed the Holy Grail. If this is the only candy you eat on the spookiest day of the year, you will still believe you had a very fine and rewarding day. Around Halloween, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are available in a variety of different shapes, sizes, and flavors. From white chocolate ghosts to milk chocolate pumpkins, all of these treats are outstanding and will make for a joyful addition to any person's Halloween candy bag.